Good. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the second round of Squirm Night 2025. My name is Ray Ercue, editor in chief of the Aspen Times. Thank you for joining us live from the Wheeler Opera House for an evening of insightful discussion with our Aspen City Council candidates.
And I'm Andre Salvio, editor in chief of the Aspen Daily News. We're excited to co host this event alongside the Aspen Times and our broadcasting partners, Aspen Public Radio and Grassroots TV. We'd like to extend a warm welcome to the Aspen City Council candidates who are joining us tonight, as well as everyone in the audience and those watching and listening from elsewhere.
Tonight's Squirm Night is made up of four sections. Following opening statements, the first half of tonight's event delves into the multifaceted issues regarding Aspen's entrance. The candidates will then have questions related to several additional issues facing the city, followed by closing statements.
Please welcome Megan Tackett with the Aspen Daily News.
Oh, yeah.
Hi, guys. Welcome to Squirm Night, City Council Edition. Thank you so much for being here. And I see people are trickling in. That's a wonderful thing. I promise I'm only going to be quasi-serious for a blissfully short amount of time. But the data are in. It shows very clearly that strong community journalism yields strong civic engagement. And I don't need a white paper to tell me that. I can look in this room and on this stage to see that very clearly. We are so fortunate to call this little valley of ours home. We have wonderful partners in media. To me, Squirm Night represents the best in collaboration. And everybody up on this stage is here because I promise you they wouldn't be if they weren't in it for the right reasons. So that's the one thing we can all agree on tonight. A couple of housekeeping items in terms of logistics. There is no intermission this evening. As much as I love being able to get a second glass of wine mid-show, it makes for really terrible TV and radio, they told me. I don't know. So that being said, you are not confined to your seats. You can come and go as you see fit. I'm sure you saw the issues committee tables outside. So after the first half of this, if you're really feeling a way about the entrance to Aspen referenda and you want to learn more, there are tables outside. No one's keeping you from going out and asking your questions of them. Then you can come right back in and catch the latter half of our Squirm Night this evening. So without further ado, thank you so much for being here. Thank you for caring about Aspen. Thank you for really caring about Aspen.
Thank you, Megan. Along with the rest of the format, candidates will have up to 60 to 90 seconds to respond to each question. There will be three questions related to Aspen's entrance. We will then ask another series of questions, allowing time for you to respond to each other.
And to keep things running smoothly, Breeze Richardson of Aspen Public Radio will be our timekeeper. She will display a yellow card when there are 30 seconds remaining and a red card when time is up, both for opening and closing statements and also candidate answers and rebuttals.
We encourage all candidates to engage openly and respectfully. Let's make this a night of meaningful conversation about the future of our community. And perhaps someone will squirm, given the nature and the name of this event.
So without further ado, let's begin with our opening statements from our city council candidates. Steen, you are first. You have 2 minutes to tell us about yourself and your candidacy.
I don't. Oh, we're on. Always first with the last name Benedetti. So, hi. Thanks to everyone for being here. Thanks to the Aspen Times, Aspen Daily News, Aspen Public Radio, and Grassroots for having us. Thanks to the Wheeler for hosting. I'm running for city council because I believe in the future of Aspen and want to raise my hand to be a steward for that future. I moved here to be a reporter for the Aspen Daily News almost 20 years ago, and I don't think in those 20 years we've had a Squirm Night on the Wheeler stage, and we certainly haven't had this many people show up for an election event. So shout out to all of you for being here and to people listening online for caring about your community and engaging. It means a lot to all of us up here, I think. Since I moved here, I've engaged in the community in several ways. I co-founded the Next Generation Advisory Commission. I served on the Wheeler Board in this Opera House for 10 years. Currently, I'm an Aspen Historical Society board member. I'm the vice chair for planning and zoning. I'm the board president for the Early Learning Center of Aspen. My lived experience here, over 20 years, will inform the decisions I make at the council table as a owner of deed restricted housing, as a parent, as a professional, as a person who loves the outdoors. I'll bring all of this as a lens in which decisions will be made. But I don't list these roles to tell you how I got here. They're all evidence of caring about Aspen. This isn't about me. I'm a little bit uncomfortable being on this stage. I don't like this spotlight, but I'm doing it because I care about Aspen. I believe in being an active participant in the communities in which you engage and live in. I show up and I do the hard work. I'm raising my hand to be an advocate for Aspen and to bring a fresh perspective to the council table.
Okay, thank you so much. John Doyle, on to you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank my fellow candidates for running. I think having 6 people running for 2 seats is much better than having 3 people run for 2 open seats. This will be much better for our community in the long run. A lot of you know me. I've lived here 44 years. Worked in a lot of different areas in my time here. 10 years in the food and beverage industry. I built skis for Phoenix Skis. I've driven snowcats for the Powder Tours for the Aspen Ski Company. I lived full time in a cabin on the back of Aspen Mountain for 16 years, year round, full time. That gave me a deep sense of appreciation for the outdoors and for conservation and the environment. I have a daughter in Aspen High School. She's a junior. And I ran for office. A lot of you will remember this. I cut my teeth in politics opposing the Lift 1 corridor expansion as well as the Pandora's expansion. I felt that when the county declared a climate emergency, it seemed pretty ridiculous to add more lift serve skiing to a valley where we already have 5 ski areas. I am running for re-election because I've gained a tremendous education in our city and its policies, and I would hate to see that education go to waste. I really enjoy doing what I do for the city, and I ask for your vote to continue to work to prepare the city of Aspen for the effects of climate change and to make it a more resilient place to live. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Emily Colby, on to you.
Good evening. My name is Emily Colby, and I want to thank you very much I want to say thank you very much to the media for being here because you are just as important to this process as government is. So thank you. I am here tonight. Thank you. I'm here tonight to offer my skill set in order to give back to this community. I've grown up here. I'm continuing to grow up here. I'm raising a family here. And I have a deep appreciation for this community that is rooted in the fact of growing up here. It's embedded in me. The ability to preserve what we have, enhance and grow together, that is what my goal is for running for council. I look forward to representing you. I look forward to deep and meaningful conversations with you and coming forth to the council as a team in order to make effective decisions. I'm honored that my neighbors, people I've worked with, employees, my family, thank you for being here, and even members of this council asked me to run. I'm here because of that sentiment. I'm continually seeking ways to engage meaningfully in this community, and this I see as that next step. My daughter is about to embark on a journey going to college where she is going to learn deeply about life and where she's going. And I too am looking forward to the opportunity to take on a new educational piece for myself
And that is our community. And I really would love your vote. Thank you.
Emily, thank you so much. Tori, on to you.
Thank you. Good evening, guys, and thank you for being here. Yes, let's see. This is my 12th campaign here in Aspen, Colorado, and this is the first time that we've been on the Wheeler stage for this event. So thank you very much to the Wheeler. I hope you all are enjoying some of the new energy that's brought back to the Wheeler, and you're enjoying some of the shows that are here. Thank you to Aspen Public Radio, the Daily News, the Times, and of course to you guys for being here. Progress and preservation. That's the slogan of my campaign. Progress and preservation. I believe in both. And I think it's striking that balance is what we need and what we need from the leadership at our council table. I've always considered myself an issue-based candidate. Living here for 30 years, living right across the street for 20 of those, I see a lot of what goes on in Aspen with our economy and our businesses, with our community. And I try to bring a representative democracy to council. I represent you. I work for you. It's not about an agenda for myself, but what the community needs and wants. Um, my top priorities when it comes to issues are the environment. I look at everything through an environmental lens. I'm looking for sustainability and a respect for where we live. Um, our housing, obviously, housing is a major issue for us. I've been a supporter, and one of the earliest decisions I made when I was on council was to support Burlingame going forward. From Burlingame to now the lumberyard, my attention is turning more towards sustainability, capital improvements, and HOA maintenance, but also tenant improvements. For example, allowing rental units to be lived in by people that may be exceeding their cap and finding a way to keep those people in their homes and changing the category of other units. Transportation. Of course, we're dealing with the entrance to Aspen right now, but it's not all about that. We need to look for alternative ways of mobility and multimodal transportation in our valley. It's the issues that drive me to continue to try to work for you. I've appreciated your support over the years, and I'm asking for another vote from you to serve as your next city councilman. Thank you guys so much.
Tori, thank you so much. Tyler Wilkinson Ray.
Hey, hi everybody. Well, first I want to thank Aspen Daily News, Aspen Times, Grassroots TV, and Aspen Public Radio, not just for hosting this event, but for your coverage of this campaign and all the issues that are involved, and everyone for coming out. It's great to see how alive and well our civic culture is here in Aspen, and of course our other candidates up here on the stage. It's been a great campaign. Let me introduce myself. I might be one of the newer faces up here. My name is Tyler Wilkinson Ray. I run a photo and video production studio in Aspen where we do high-end creative assets for many businesses in town. But before I started my production studio, I had a very different career, and that was in public policy and government affairs back in my home state of Vermont, where I worked for a firm that was routinely voted as the most effective firm in the state. And I got to learn under a group of very smart attorneys how to craft good and effective public policy. I worked on a lot of issues that overlap with issues facing this town. I worked on the Vermont Affordable Housing Coalition, which is very similar to APSHA. I worked on energy efficiency, which is very obviously what CORE does. I represented labor unions, state police, as well as private clients, where we did public-private partnerships to build large infrastructure projects, and our community has some of those coming down the line. So that's really my pitch to voters. Is that the problems facing Aspen are not small town politics anymore, and we need leadership for whom public policy, is not just a hobby, but an actual background and expertise. So I'm running because I've seen well-intentioned leadership in this town, but who are relying on the same mechanisms and ideas that worked 50 years ago. And what worked 50 years ago is just simply not working today. So we need fresh ideas and people with a strong background in how to craft public policy and make decisions to move our community in the right direction forward in the future.
Tyler, thank you so much. And Scott Woolley, on to you.
Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for making the time to come out tonight. Thanks to my mom and my brother for being in the audience. And thanks to all the candidates here who are taking the time to be, to throw their ring in the hat and to be part of this process. Our town's better with civic engagement, and this turnout tonight shows that we're one of the best towns in the world. So thank you all for coming. My name is Scott Woolley. I was born and raised in Aspen, and I have a background in environmental policy and Mandarin Chinese from the University of Boulder. I spent 10 years starting businesses in China. I established a school and a restaurant and a bar. I have a broad range of experience and deep roots in this community. What I hope to do is bring some of my experiences around the world back to this community to, like Tori said, both look to the past to honor the people that came before us, but also to look to the future and find innovative solutions that benefit our community as a whole. I hope to be a representative of the people of Aspen. I believe that for 3 decades, we have a little bit of a pushback between special interests and community will, and I'm willing to listen. I want to be available to the people of Aspen to make sure that community values are represented on council. I hope to show leadership and my listening in that capacity, and I'm committed to being a diligent and collaborative leader. I also want to point out that I'll have the courage to stand up for the things that are important to our community, even in the face of those who are maybe pushing back harder than you might imagine. And the biggest thing for me is that our town is incredible. We have an amazing legacy and history, and we have the capacity and resources to make this town a beacon on the mountain so that the rest of the world can look to us for leadership, and I hope to be part of that. Thank you.
Now, on to the questions section of Squirm Night. And up first, the entrance to Aspen. Our long-standing debate over the entrance touches on issues of open space preservation, commuter and local traffic, emergency access, and neighborhood concerns. The same question will be directed to all candidates, who will have up to 90 seconds to answer. We will start with John Doyle. Without getting into any details about the March 4th election ballot referendums, that will come up in a separate question. John, what do you think is the best solution to the entrance to Aspen?
Honestly, I am not positive what the best solutions to the entrance to Aspen is. That's why I supported reopening the EIS to see if something was overlooked 26, 28 years ago that might have more community buy-in, might have more community acceptance than the preferred alternative or the 3-lane bridge. I will say the 3-lane bridge, I don't see that working for our community at all. Trying to fix the bridge with traffic on it, I think is ludicrous. If I had my way, if I was king, I would build a second bridge at Main Street, similar to the Castle Creek Bridge, shift the traffic onto the new bridge, rebuild the Castle Creek Bridge, because that's a critical part of the entrance to Aspen is the Castle Creek Bridge is failing. Once the Castle Creek Bridge is fixed, I'd like to move all the traffic back onto the Castle Creek Bridge through the S curves, and then change the new bridge into light rail out to the airport, onto the Brush Creek Park and Ride eventually, and down to Glenwood to connect with Denver. And also changing the rest of the bridge back into a major pedestrian bicycle thoroughfare that would connect to Main Street. Will that happen? I doubt it. But again, that's why I want to reopen the EIS to see if there is a solution that has more community buy-in. Thanks.
Thank you very much, John. Emily, the same question. What is the best solution to the entrance to Aspen?
Thank you. I, like John, do not have the overall answer. I look to experts to inform the decision-making process. I will support whatever is concluded once we utilize all the information. The current existing information is outdated. I strongly encourage a new EIS so that we can move forward and take action on a better program for our community. Regardless of the vote, it is upon us to solve the mobility issue in our community.
We don't solve mobility with more asphalt. We have to think about how we're utilizing our public transportation, how we're moving in and throughout the community, and what our values are, and how that is represented in how we move. It takes all of us to be a part of this, to move it incrementally, a little bit here and a little bit there. There is no one answer.
Thank you. Tori, what are your thoughts?
Um, I agree. I think those are both great answers, and I am supportive of reopening the EIS and getting some more study done. I think that what we've seen for what's been put forth in the record of decision and the preferred alternative, as it's called, is not really meeting the community's expectations and needs. Um, we commissioned a survey and to get some input and some information from our community. And so what I represent on city council is what I've heard back from that. Um, one of the top priorities was another exit in case of emergency. Seems to be very important to this community. And with that, I can see that a second bridge could be built. For me, I'm not a fan of the preferred alternative. I would prefer what's called the modified split shot. It goes around the Merle open space. It allows Cemetery Lane residents to go either right or left to get in town or down valley. It does not require a tunnel. It may not need a traffic light at 7th and Main. And it does provide that emergency egress in case of emergency. So for me, what I've seen from community input is that the modified split shot seems to address most of our community concerns the most, as well as the criteria that was set out for that highway improvement. An interesting thing about the survey, I found it interesting. If you took the survey, you know that we ranked them. You had 4 choices. Uh, Over 70% chose a split shot solution as their second choice. So while first choices may be divided, over 70% thought that the split shot was a reasonable solution as their second choice. I
Thank
think
you,
that
Tori.
puts a lot of support behind it.
Thank you. Tyler, your thoughts on the entrance?
Yeah, I think the sorry, I'm losing my voice a little bit from this campaigning, but I think the best way forward for our community, the best solution is one that's most supported by our community after 20 years plus years of debating. I think we need to get community input, and I think that's what these referendums are going to give us a very good idea of where a community stands compared to where it stands 20 years ago. I do have some concerns about opening a new EIS. One, our bridge is falling apart, and this year, next year, 5 years, there any year now, CDOT could come inspect that bridge and put a weight limit on it, which would mean all the large trucks that bring our food to our grocery stores and our restaurants and our construction trucks, cement trucks, wouldn't be able to come in, and that would be a huge impact on our economy. I also have concerns that once we open up a new EIS, yes, we have community input, but the decision at the end of the day is CDOT's. We don't just say we want to say a 3-lane shift or another alternative. And so talking to people with intimate knowledge of how this process works, there is a real possibility that CDOT could look at the size of our community, how much we've grown, and come back with either the identical proposal or a larger highway bridge. So I think we just have to be opening up a new EIS is a very risky endeavor.
Thank you, Tyler. Scott, entrance to Aspen, best solution.
I'll tell you right now, the best solution is not more studies, more $1 million surveys, and more inaction. I was 10 years old when we voted on the preferred alternative, and over the last 30 years, the voters of Aspen have felt increasingly disenfranchised by the expression of special interest in our political discourse. I think it's time for action. I like to use the metaphor of the quad on a college campus. You don't not build the sidewalks around the grass because the students are going to cut through the grass. You build the sidewalks, you pay attention, and then you make incremental changes that improve everyone's life. It's on us to take into account the actual costs of a commuter economy. That's economic, social, and environmental. It's on us as a community to lead this valley, this region, and the nation in terms of what we're willing to do to benefit the greater good. I think it's about time for us to take action, to move forward, and to do bigger and better things.
Thank you very much, Scott. Christine, entrance to Aspen, best solution.
So I don't think there's a best solution, and that's reflected in 30 years of indecision and inaction on this issue. Tori referenced a survey that came out in the fall to City of Aspen voters, and 86% of respondents were looking to the entrance to Aspen to solve congestion. None of the options on the table meaningfully address traffic right now. So, unless we take a holistic and integrated approach and look at this from a comprehensive big picture, we have the airport redevelopment, we have the lumberyard redevelopment, we have the opportunity to plan all of this around the entrance to Aspen rather than dealing specifically with the bridge. There's no doubt that the bridge needs to be fixed, but this is an opportunity to do it better than options on the table. I'd support reopening the EIS to make sure that we are doing this in the best way possible and the most Aspen way possible.
Thank you.
Okay, on to the next question. And this does have to do with the referendums. This begins with Emily. Do you support either of the entrance of Aspen referendums on the ballot or not, and why?
Great question. I am not in support directly with referendum one. I believe that as a community, regardless of how you vote, we still have the opportunity to have a vote, whether you believe in 50% or 60%. Personally, I am voting yes on referendum one because I do believe in the preservation of our open space. However, referendum two, I'm voting no personally. That one does not give us a continued option. The difference in these two is that one, our hands are very tied, and the other one still, our decision making is with our community.
Emily, thank you so much. Tori, on to you. What are your thoughts?
I am recommending a no vote on both referendum. I appreciate the citizen efforts that are involved in putting those forward, but I don't think either one of those has an opportunity to get us any closer to our actual goals. So I'm recommending voting no on both referendum.
Thank you, Tori. Now, Tyler?
Um, yeah, I do not. Well, while I support our open spaces, I think Aspen Daily News did a good job of explaining the problems with referendum one. That it ties the hands of the city in potentially acquiring, trades for other open public space, and just creates more red tape and delays that I don't think are effective, and I don't think we need it. Um, I like the idea of referendum two. I think it's the closest thing we have. I think we could have worded it a little different. But I think it does a pretty effective job of weighing where our community is on this issue, and I will follow that direction. So I like the concept of referendum too, and the information it'll give us about where our community stands.
Thank you so much, Tyler. Scott, on to you.
Well, I should start by saying what I, as an individual, choose to vote on isn't really part of the job interview process. My job as an elected representative in a representative democracy is to listen to the community. So I'll start with that caveat. I will also mention that referendum one has been opposed by the Open Space and Parks Board, and that the people who are in charge of stewarding our important land and open space, the 2,000 plus acres of parks, trails, and open space that we have in this incredible city, think that it would create too much red tape, tie the hands of the department, and make future progress unlikely. It's gridlock tactics at its best, and it's not something that I personally will be supporting. In terms of referendum two, I was on the committee to get that referendum on the ballot because I believe not in a single solution. There's no silver buckshot to any of the problems we face as a town, as a community, as a valley, or as a world, but rather that I believe in the tenets of democracy, that we as a community should have the right to choose and not be bent to the will of special interests who are trying to limit our democratic process. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Scott, thank you so much. Christine, on to you.
In regards to referendum one, this is on the ballot to try to force a decision on the entrance to Aspen. It applies in Aspen. We have 30 parks, 9 fields, and 1,500 acres of open space. And this initiative would apply to all of those. So for me, it's too far reaching, and there would certainly be unintended consequences. I agree that it's telling that the Open Space and Trails Board also voted against it. So I'm a no on referendum 1. In regards to referendum 2, Aspen is a home rule charter city. We pride ourselves on that. And I think that referendum 2 cedes too much control to the state level on an emotional and personal issue. So I'm also a no on referendum 2.
Christine, thank you so much. Last but not least, John, your response.
Yes, referendum one, I think requiring a supermajority is detrimental to moving our city forward. It would slow down the process, as many people have pointed out already. Open Space and Trails voted against it. Um, I just see it as counterproductive to moving forward. And referendum two, as was stated up here before, ceding too much control to the state. I am a no on both referendums. Thanks.
On to the final question in this section related to the entrance to Aspen. And we will start with Tori. Do you have any outside the box solutions or ideas to Aspen's traffic issues? There are suggestions that we consider a gondola, perhaps between Brush Creek Park and Ride and Aspen, or even light rail. What do you think of those, or do you have any other ideas?
I'm open to any ideas. I was a supporter of rail 30 years ago, but the times have changed a little on that. We have preserved the corridor, so if rail was to become a reality, I'd be supportive of that. There's a lot of questions that are around that. The gondola and that's been suggested, whether it's from Aspen just to the airport or all the way to Brush Creek, I think has some inherent issues as well. I've actually reached out to a couple of different manufacturers to find out about the feasibility for that. And they have their questions as well if it serves that corridor the way that we would need it to. So as far as those, I'm willing to consider, but a lot more study needs to go into it. For myself, other out of the box, we've had people talking to us about tunneling, bringing a tunnel up under Marolt instead of across it. But mostly what I'm really interested in is what we're forming now is some there's a citizen-led task force, and then the BOCC and the Aspen City Council also talked about convening a group to start looking at greater Highway 82 corridor improvements. The roundabout itself, right? No matter what we do between the roundabout and Main Street, 1/3 of a mile that we call the entrance to Aspen, there are still 3 other pinch points that lead into the city of Aspen. So creative thinking, hey, let's do something about the roundabout. It's a little bit small for its place. It needs to function a lot better. It already has some failing grades for how the roundabout works. But there are other intersection and light timing improvements that we should be making and making now.
Thank you, Tori. Tyler, outside the box.
Well, first one, I think we do need to take a 360 approach to transportation. I think this is maybe outside the box, but making RAFTA free valley-wide, I think would be a huge step. It's only 7% of their budget are the fares. I think we could take care of that. Another idea I've proposed is an e-bike subsidy. This has been highly effective in Boulder and Denver. It's been studied all over the world, including Colorado. Crestview has one that makes e-bikes are a great emerging technology, but they're expensive. And if we can get more people, particularly at Lumberyard and ABC on e-bikes, I think we can. That's great. Again, a small step, but it has been studied to be very effective. And then, of course, like Waymo is rolling out autonomous taxis in 50 cities, roughly 50 cities this year. So what I mean by that is we should be looking at what transportation is going to look like, not right now or not what it looked like 50 years ago, but what technologies are going to be around in 10, 20 years, and how is that going to change how we move? Same thing, tunneling, that technology is also emerging rapidly. Right now, it's not even close to affordable enough, but we just don't know that could come down drastically as well. So those are just a couple ideas I think of small ways we can, address the transportation problem.
On to Scott.
Out of the box, I think, is kind of a descriptor for what the Aspen community has always been. When the founders of our town tried to put the walking mall in, people told them it'd be bad for the economy. When people said, let's welcome physicists to the Aspen Meadows and create the Aspen Institute, people said they'll never come. The way that we've been innovative in the past can be innovative in the future. I love what Tyler said about self-driving cars. We should be planning for the future, not looking into the past. We should be addressing people who want a carless downtown center. We should be looking at all of these options, but it needs to start with some action. Starting by increasing the amount of public transportation lanes is a good first step. Also, solidifying that light rail corridor and right of way is also important. I don't have a solid answer, but part of the problem here is that we're circling our own tail like we've been doing for 3 decades on one issue and not moving forward. So again, I think the best out of the box solution for this discussion is to move forward on the entrance and then make incremental changes to the future. Thank you.
Christine.
I wish I had the one out of the box solution that would fix the entrance to Aspen, but I don't. There's no silver bullet for this, and it needs, like I said before, it needs to be a comprehensive and integrated approach. I'm encouraged by the coalition that was announced this week that is drawing from the 2017 mobility study that was hosted by the Aspen Institute. A lot of smart, hardworking people put a lot of time into that product, and there's a lot to take away from it. So this isn't the first time people are thinking about the different ways we can approach that. And some of the things in there are ride sharing, HOV enforcement, lanes that we've talked about, e-bike or subsidizing e-bike. So I think we can't look to one solution, and this has to be integrated. And I'm encouraged that citizens are taking that on in partnership with government to make that happen.
Thank you. John Doyle.
Yes, I like to think outside the box. You've already heard what I would do if I were king. Um, and let me back up. I've lived here 44 years, and in those 44 years, the population of the Wingport Valley has more than doubled. And I think in the next 40 years, and we're supposed to be thinking long term as elected officials, in the next 40 years, I think our population is going to more than double again. What are we going to do with all those single occupancy cars? We can't, we can build a preferred alternative, and that's not going to solve our issues. We need to provide an alternative to single occupancy cars, and that's why a gondola or light rail, I think, is the answer. We're also losing, lost a month of winter in the 40 years I've lived here. We're going to lose at least that much more in the next 40 years. That's not good for the planet, but it's going to be great for bike riding. We can get a lot more people on bikes and e-bikes. And as Christine has pointed out, the lumberyard, and I've been saying this for several years, the lumberyard, the airport, and the entrance are all on our radar. They're all in close proximity, and we should be looking at them comprehensively. I think, again, connecting downtown to the airport and eventually to the Russ Creek Park and Ride with light rail or possibly a gondola. I think that would be a really good first step. I've hit my limit. Thanks.
Thank you, John. And Emily.
Well, I'm just really impressed with all the ideas that are coming up right now. Listen to how the discussion has been elevated. Regardless of what we vote, none of these solutions are going to happen right away. So the out of the box that I would like to see happen is what we can do right now. These are day one solutions. Can we hire more RAFTA drivers to run the same routes that are at capacity? Can we make living in this valley more comfortable and easier by doing simple solutions right now that do not require major outlays of economic and capital investments? Can we ourselves change our behavior just a little bit Because if you're sitting in the traffic and you're frustrated, you're part of the problem. So let's take a little bit on ourselves before we consider throwing hundreds of millions of dollars at something that may not fix the problem.
Thank you, all candidates. We are going to move on to section 3, part 1. These questions will be directed to a pair of candidates who will each have up to 90 seconds to answer.
This first question is for Tori and John. You are the only incumbents in the race. What is something you wish you would have done differently during your time in office? Tori, we'll start with you.
What would I like to have done differently? I guess the one thing that comes to mind is right after the pandemic, I really would have wanted to get back to some normal operating procedures a little bit better. From open office hours in a more accessible city hall to more outreach programs, and it just took us a lot longer coming out of COVID to get back in touch with the community than I really was hoping that it would. With that being said, my last 6 years as being mayor being mayor was definitely interrupted by COVID. So for me, some of the goals that we've fallen short on, and part of the reason that I'm running now, and to follow up on those things that we've started and the good work that we've started, was interrupted and delayed for 2.5 years plus. And I know some of us are still coming out of it. So not a whole bunch of change, but just coming out of that COVID era, more community engagement a little bit quicker would have been something that I would push for.
Thank you, Tori. John, same question.
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question for me?
Sure.
Thanks.
Being one of only 2 incumbents in this council race, what is something you wish you would have done differently during your recent time in office?
There's only one answer to this. First of all, I just want to say one regret I have is not getting involved in public office sooner. But my other regret is while I've been in office, in the heat of the moment, I spoke an anti-Semitic statement that hurt a lot of people in this community and damaged relationships. And it was a huge learning experience for me. And I like to think for the whole community, because I was able to learn what the international rules on anti-Semitism are and what they look like. And I was not aware of how deeply I misspoke and how deeply I hurt members of this community. And it rocked me to my core. I was asked to resign. And I think if anybody's asked to resign, you consider it. I decided not to because people of Aspen voted me into this position, and I felt I would have let down their trust. At any rate, I am still deeply sorry for the harm that I caused this community, and that is my regret that I've had.
Thank you, John. This next question is for Emily and Scott. You both, oh, geez. You both grew up in Aspen. How have you seen this town change? How do you propose the city can maintain its community character? And Emily, we will start with you.
How have I seen this town change?
Just a small question.
I'm a little older than Scott. Um, well, I actually grew up in Snowmass Village, and Owl Creek Road was a dirt road, and it is no longer. The airport didn't have a fire station set on its property. The roundabout didn't exist. I went to elementary school in downtown Aspen. Yes, there is a lot that has changed. We had little Victorian buildings in the commercial core, and many of those are gone. And um, the second part of the question is, and how would I?
Oh, geez, where are we?
Would I?
How do you propose the city can maintain its community character?
Community character is strong. Look at you all. We're here. It's just giving us access to it and finding your nugget and your place. We all interact in different ways and it changes over time. It's not gone. You guys aren't done. We still give back. Look at the volunteers at the thrift shop. That is a huge community. Go. I challenge any of you, go to the ski swap. You're going to see 100 of your friends. I encourage more civic engagement. I encourage more participation. We're here. We're asking for you. We want you to participate. Please come out.
Thank you, Emily. Scott, same question. How have you seen the town change and how does it maintain its community character?
Yeah, big question. In some ways, I think Emily's totally right. We still have some of the amazing things that this town has always had. Our vision, our innovative spirit, our love of the outdoors. We're lucky enough to still have a lot of those things. In my lifetime, the cost of housing has increased by 10,000%, from $190,000 for a single family home to $19.9 million. Bridging the gap between affordable housing and the rest of the country and that kind of a free market environment is untenable. That's one important change. I've seen Port La France and the Cantina, Jour de Fête, and other important third spaces in our community disappear. And I've seen, one of my first jobs as a kid was at the Wiener Stoop, where we had the community table. I've seen that kind of discourse disappear. Some people think that the internet and social media are destroying society, and in a lot of ways, it's true. But most acutely, it's happening at the level of the village, where we interact with the people that we might not agree with, and where we learn tolerance and empathy. And unfortunately, we've lost some of that. The end, I think I do agree with Emily, that the solution is participation. So thank you all for coming and watching and being part of this process.
The final question of this section is for Tyler and Christine. You are both longtime local residents, but this is your first council race. What compelled you to run for city council this year? We'll start with Tyler.
Yeah, what made me want to jump into this race was seeing the ability for people in our community to, first of all, live here. That's the first step to being able to form community, but to live here, thrive, run small businesses, I think have been drastically eroded over the last 5+ years. We saw the introduction of Airbnb, basically effectively any free market rental place, which I used to lose or which I used to live in, it was lost. And so and we just haven't kept up in our housing, and you can't have community if you don't have housing. So, as someone who used to work in these areas, who thought I had moved on from policy and politics for the rest of my life, looking at what was being offered as solutions and the ideas being presented, realizing that I had some ideas and I had input and I had experience that could benefit this community moving forward and allow it to stay a vibrant community. So I don't love the idea of spending Monday and Tuesday nights for the foreseeable future. But I love this community. It's offered a lot to me, and I think I have ideas and ways to support this community moving forward.
Christine, same question. What compelled you to run?
I was compelled to run. Well, first, the timing was right. I have 2 young kids and they're less young now. So that I don't have to change as many diapers, and that helps. Uh, I said in the beginning that I believe in being an active participant in the communities in which you live. And I'm running because I am hearing candidates on this stage and my friends, neighbors, family complaining about the erosion of community, the lack of affordable retail, the lack of affordable restaurants, the places to interact with your neighbors. And rather than piling on with that, I would like to be part of the solution to the extent that I can. And that's what compelled me to run this time.
Thank you.
Okay. This next question is for all of the candidates, and you will each get 1 minute to answer. What are the ideal characteristics you will be looking for in a city manager? And Tyler, we will start with you.
Great. Look forward to this. So I think city manager there are frontline resource for making good decisions. So I think a city manager who is open to city council's questions, ideas, and going and helping us find the resources and answers that we need, and really being open to what the city council is asking for, and being as helpful as possible, and ideally not having any sort of personal um, direction or bias, I guess I'd say.
Thank you, Tyler. Scott, on to you.
Yeah, good timing on that question. Obviously being collaborative is an important part of this kind of governance dynamic where you have a council that discusses city management, and then they run the governance from there. Part of what we're facing right now is that we do have different value sets in a lot of ways, but I would argue that most of us share more of the things that we love than the things that we choose to despise. And so finding someone who has a community value set, who's willing to collaborate, and is also a good listener would be really important to me. Of course, experience is important, and finding someone who's qualified to run our $200+ million budget and all of the incredible services that our city and staff already contribute to our community.
Thank you, Scott. Christine, on to you. Same question.
I've seen two city managers in the 20 years I've been here, which I think is unique for Aspen, and they both had different skill sets. And we, or whoever is elected to council, has the exciting opportunity to help select the next one. And two of the traits that stand out to me are open-mindedness and a willingness to be a vulnerable leader, I think is important. And I think transparency is also important. There's a lot of mistrust in our community right now about what's happening in government. And to the extent that a city manager can be as upfront, direct, and transparent with what's happening in City Hall and with council is really critical to our next 5, 10, 15, 20 years.
Christine, thank you so much. John, on to you.
Yeah, great timing on this question. We will be looking for a city manager who I want to find a city manager who's going to work as an equal partner with our mayor. I think that's how our city government was designed, and I think it's worked pretty well that way. But they need to work in concert together, and I want to find a city manager that is deeply invested in this community and wants to stay here, raise their family, and ideally be a skier would be great. I'm looking for somebody who's very collaborative, who's open-minded, and who can think outside the box with excellent leadership capabilities gained from years working somewhere else. We need someone with experience to manage this extraordinary city with the complex problems we have. Thanks.
John, thank you so much. Emily, same question.
I am excited to answer this question because I have a lot of experience in hiring and maintaining staff. I'm proud to say that Brunelleschi's has had the same kitchen staff for 20 years. All right. In this town, I think that says a lot. Yes, there are skills that our city manager should have: management experience, budgetary, large organizational experiences, but it's the secret sauce of the person. It is that character traits of leadership, listening, empowering others, the ability to reach out throughout our valley. That's what I want to see in a city manager.
Finally, Tori, your response?
I agree with everything that was just said. I want all that. The role of a city manager is pretty clearly defined, but there are the nuances that would really help in a community like this. One is to understand the values and the history of Aspen. Two, to be able to communicate with and support the citizens of Aspen. and to communicate and support the city council as well. Obviously, I've always said city managers have to bring a tremendous breadth and depth of knowledge on so many different topics. And that professional aspect is extremely important. Budgetary concerns, administrative duties, and the like. But what is next for the city of Aspen is definitely a city manager that has the compassion and the connection to this community that the community is looking for.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. On to the next section, section 3, part 3.0. So we're going to give you a chance to react to each other. The following questions are for a specific candidate. Each of you will have 1 minute to respond to the question, but there will be an opportunity for up to 3 candidates to offer a 30-second rebuttal. You will simply raise your hand once the responding candidate has concluded, and then you will be called on by me. So, and then when Ray asks a question, he will choose the people who will do the rebuttal.
Thank you, Andre.
Yeah. So, each of you all can offer a rebuttal opposing another candidate's response up to 3 times out of the 6 questions. So choose wisely. Breeze Richardson will be keeping track, and once you have provided 3 rebuttals, you will not be called on again.
All right, here we go.
What? It's a little confusing, but bear with us. All right.
So, community character is very important to local residents. As we know, the city has seen many changes in recent years, leading some to say we have lost our soul. Do you agree or disagree with that sentiment? Scott, we will start with you.
I have 1 minute, so I'll have to speak quickly. Thank God for APSHA and the 50 years of history of leadership that APSHA has provided to our community. Like I already mentioned, the difference between subsidized housing and the free market is unreachable gap at this point. And so programs like APSHA have allowed us to keep a diverse, thriving, and vibrant community in this town. So thank you for them. I'm honored to be on their board of directors and look forward to making that program evolve with our community needs. This question is difficult. I mean, we only house 1/5 of the economy here in our town, and it's difficult to solve this with one simple problem or one simple solution. We need an entrance to Aspen. We need more affordable housing. We need intentional and thoughtful policies to continue to incentivize small businesses, entrepreneurs, and creatives in our community. And as a community, we need to come together with our shared values, work together, and elevate the best parts of our community.
Does anyone want to comment?
I'll comment. I'm not going to disagree. Actually, I agree. So it's maybe not much of a rebuttal, but I totally agree with Scott on APSHA and what we need to do. APSHA is currently not keeping up with the site and loop fee. We need to raise that. So we're actually raising enough funds to build this new housing. We need to set site and loop fees that's high enough that encourages developers to develop housing on their projects so that it's 15 seconds. And then I also think we need to change our zoning laws. We currently have developers who are leaving our corners of our downtown abandoned and boarded up, and we need to encourage development to, once it's started, to be finished and not leave our town looking like parts of Detroit.
Scott, thank you. Tori?
So the question was about the character of Aspen.
The character of Aspen,
All right.
has it lost its soul?
Oh, okay. So again, slogan for this campaign: progress and preservation. We need to carry forward old Aspen. Somebody said to me yesterday about how we've lost the bohemian nature of our community. We need to get that back. I, for one, am doing my part by driving a pickle car around and putting smiley faces up wherever I can. So I ask you to join me anytime.
Thank you, Tori. Yeah, that's it for the first one.
Next question. What should be done about armory redevelopment? Armory Hall, the former City Hall building. Do you think the project is on the right track? Emily.
Ooh. Um, I The Armory project is complicated. It is, I personally would like to see a reorganization of the assets on the interior. I do not think that the way it is currently being modeled is going to meet our needs, our budget, or the intent for the community.
Any rebuttals? Scott?
I'll just add to that. Yeah, our community needs more community spaces. We voted on using this public asset as a community space, and it's turned into this commodified commercial space where we're subsidizing competition with existing businesses. I think we should stick with the values of our community and make it a community space.
Christine?
I am in full support of community space, but I think that to have community, you have to activate around something, and food and beverage is the most traditional way that that's happened since the start of human civilization. And this is a concept that's proven in cities throughout the country, throughout the world. I think we can tweak how it is and or what's being proposed there and the way that it's being subsidized, but without a food and beverage component, I just don't see people activating around a semi-empty space.
Oh, John, please.
I just wanted to add a quick commentary. I've thought of the Armory as a student union building that all college campuses have, where it's a gathering space. There might be some food available. Acker will have an office there, but it needs to be a community hub. And I do have concerns about competition with already established local eateries and bars. Do we really need more restaurants and bars? Yes, we would like cheaper ones.
Thank you.
All right, next question here. Childcare continues to be a growing concern in the community. Residents say there aren't enough facilities and instructors. How do we address this problem in Aspen and in the Upper Valley? And Christine, we will start with you.
So we are very fortunate to have a 0.45% sales tax in the city of Aspen that funds Kids First. I don't think the issue right now is the lack of space. The waiting lists are going down. I have a 3-year-old. I'm on the board of the Early Learning Center, and we have space at the center. What's happening is the affordability and the accessibility in childcare centers. Families, even with financial aid, are still paying up to 15% of their income. The national suggested average is 7%. And that's a kind of an Aspen tax on things when you already are paying more to live here. So I think that we can look at the Kids First budget, this $4.5 million a year that we have coming in, and ask ourselves if the money is being put to the right place and supporting the families, the workforce in our town, and making sure that we are taking care of all ages of our all ages of our community.
Thank you. Emily.
In addition to the need for appropriate childcare, it also comes down to the education of those childcare providers, which is something that Kids First donates its time, its effort, its resources, and allocates the funds in order to ensure that we have high quality childcare.
Any other takers? No, going once, going twice. Scott.
Might as well. I've got a background in education. My mother was an educator here in the Valley for almost 30 years. I've have experience administering and operating a private school. Education is really important. Childcare is really important. But if we zoom out a little bit from this one picture, affordability and access, this is where we are. We might need more affordable and accessible restaurants. We might need more restaurants that cater to our community values. And I think that that same thing, this solution, can happen with the Armory. Why aren't we making the Armory a child care center? Why aren't we using some of these public resources to continue the great work that we've done so far? Thank you.
Thank you. I think we have space for one more if anyone wants to take that. If not, we'll go on to the next question. I know it's confusing. I'm totally confused. Next question. Not only do we have a traffic problem in Aspen, we have a pedestrian problem. But there are also issues concerning motorists versus pedestrians within city limits. How do we better educate pedestrians to better prevent accidents? What can be done to make the town safer for pedestrians and motorists alike? Tyler.
Um, I've heard various ideas of education campaigns at the airport or at the entrance. I think that's both of those are worth doing. But I also think there might need to be a little bit of enforcement here. I think I love how relaxed our police force is, but people do just walk out in front of cars. People park their cars in the middle of the road and put their blinkers on so they can go shopping, and it causes congestion. I think at some point, even if it's just warnings, we do need to let people know that you can't just walk out in front of cars. I always tell tourists, metal is just as hard here if it hits you as it is in New York, and you don't want to find that out. And it's also oftentimes icy and hard to break. So, education, but I also think with the carrot, a little bit of a stick might be needed.
Carrot and stick. Emily?
I'm in favor of the pedestrians having the right of way. If we're talking about traffic and mobility, I think our bicyclists, I think our pedestrians, talk about things that have changed since growing up. When I was a child, pedestrians had the right of way regardless of where they were walking.
Corey?
Sure. For years, over 20 years, I've been talking about pedestrian priority in Aspen, and we still haven't restored it. I am proud of this council. We've lowered the speed limit again. I think that's bringing a greater degree of safety. We actually made some changes in our downtown core with parking and one-way streets that are hopefully making those a little bit safer in downtown. We need to keep on this issue. For years, we talked about median strips on Main Street or whatever to slow traffic and to give pedestrians a safe crossing. We need to keep going with more pedestrian priority solutions.
Scott?
Let's dream big. Why aren't we pursuing a carless downtown corridor? Why aren't we using self-driving vehicles? Moving past single occupancy vehicles is at the crux of all of these conversations. It's at the crux of the commuter economy, the entrance to Aspen, affordability. Let's think big and be an innovative community again.
I also think pedestrians should come first. It's just the progressive way that Aspen's always thought. Cars should be secondary after pedestrians. I'd like to consider congestion pricing, like New York has instituted. It may get recalled with current federal administration, but if they can make it work in New York, it's already working in Paris, London, and Stockholm. It could work here. And I think getting cars off the road is the obvious answer to enhancing the pedestrian experience. We also have added stop signs in the West End to help with pedestrian auto collisions there, as well as the crossing at is it Garmisch and Maine, where the new bus stop is. I think that's enhanced the pedestrian safety experience. Thanks.
Okay, on to the next question here. Over the past year, there has been discussion at the council table and letters to the editor regarding our homeless population. Is there a homeless problem in Aspen? What resources do you think the council should support for those who are struggling with housing? And John, we will start with you.
This is a problem that I think Aspen's making some progress on. We do have a homeless issue here, not as bad as in many other places, but there are some chronic homeless that are giving our police department the most problems. We are helping fund homeless solutions with the county. I am against any hostile architecture to discourage, that type of behavior to deal with homelessness. We have the means and the financial ability to be compassionate about this problem, and that's the direction I want to go.
Any other takers?
Sure, I'll jump in. I do not know the root of our homeless or our housing challenged community, if it's by choice because of affordability, if it's mental health, if it's access, if it's convenience, if it's creativity, because maybe it's actually a pretty great exercise to see if you can actually accomplish it. I don't know, but that would be a good starting point, is to figure out what are the root causes of it in this particular community, and what is the volume as well. I don't know the numbers. I don't have the information, but I'm quite curious about it.
Scott, you were cut off. You're done.
You used your three. All right, I'm out of tokens.
Anyone else who isn't done?
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I think we need to look at a valley-wide approach to homelessness. It does. I don't think it's feasible for us to be building transitional housing to get people back on their feet up in Aspen. I think we need to look at valley-wide solutions that we can do, and we can do affordably as we help people. Obviously, mental health services are a huge part of that. But yeah, I'd encourage a valley-wide approach to that problem.
Okay. Next question. As the real estate transfer tax is written into law, how do you foresee dedicating a fair amount of those public funds going to the making of culture and visual and performing arts, not just building upkeep and administration? Corey.
Well, we're doing it. Everything from the grants that we've been doing for the vibrancy grants and using those monies for greater community connectedness and getting our community together. Um, this We're going to have a real serious conversation about this again. It was the previous council that sent the ballot question to the voters to release the ability to utilize some of the RET funds in a broader sense. But we need to get back on that. We need a citizen group to start helping direct some of those funds and where they're going to go. But we've already started doing that. And so one of the pillars of my campaign is to get these funds out into the community, to use arts and culture to create more community connectedness. And I'm really proud that we are moving in that direction.
Yeah, I'll jump in on that. I think it's great that we have a surplus in that fund, and I'd love to see it spread from outside of Just a Wheeler and Red Brick. Start doing more public art, more public arts performances, more grants for artists to be doing stuff throughout our community. So we have spread art not just here and behind us at the Red Brick, but all over our community. I also think we have to be cognizant of the potential of, if there is ever a real estate downturn or a recession, that we want to have a slush fund so we can protect places like Wheeler and Red Brick and make sure we can maintain at least the offerings that we have right now.
Christine.
Think the Arts and Culture Fund last year gave 8 million to different applicants throughout the year in the grants program. And the Wheeler Rhett is now up to 60 million is what we were told last week. And there are a lot of people who want to get access to that money. And I think that there is a argument to be made for compelling, if people can make a compelling case, if organizations can make a compelling case, individual artists, that we should be giving out more of that to people who need it and deserve it, and that's what the money's there for, not sitting in the bank account.
Thank you. Anyone else except for Scott and Emily? All right, moving on. Thank you. Section 3, Part 4.0. All candidates will get 1 minute answers on each question. There will be no rebuttals in this final question section. What we're doing is putting the Squirm back in Squirm night. No rebuttals.
Oh, it's on me now. I'd like to preface this. Yeah, that's what I thought. I'd like to preface this section by saying, don't hate me after this. Emily, this one is for you. I recall having a conversation with you at Brunicelli's. We were talking about the difficulty of becoming a local. What constitutes being a local in your mind? And if you're elected to council, how are you going to represent those constituents who don't meet your definition?
So, what is the definition of being a local? It depends on who you ask. However, my mother reminded me that one of the hallmarks of coming to this town and the reason that they felt so invited here was the theory and the thought that we all come from somewhere and that we all put our pants on the same way. And it's about sharing and exchanging that and having that rapport. Now, as someone who grew up in the school and I came in fourth grade, I was not considered a local because I wasn't born here. In fact, Marnie Mosman, wherever you are, I know I wasn't born here. But I can tell you, being a local is your point of contribution. It's not how someone else labels you. It's not how you're going to self-identify, but how you participate, how you engage, what meaning you bring to and what you get from this community.
Tyler, you recently called the town clerk complaining that the office was never open because you were having trouble dropping off your signatures to get your name on the ballot. Of course, the office was open. You'd just been going to the wrong location. And you're apparently unaware that our city hall relocated in 2021. How closely do you follow the city business that you're running to help oversee?
Well, I want to be very clear. I've been at City Hall many times. I I looked it up and it's labeled wrong on the internet. So I said, oh, maybe just the clerk is still back at that other at the old building, and the rest of City Hall offices have moved over. So that's how I went there. It was thanks to a Google Maps. So yeah, that's how I was also confused why it was sending me over there. But yeah, um, in terms of following city politics, I've was on Next Gen. I do follow things closely. I prefer to watch city council meetings on my computer while I'm working or cooking dinner rather than sitting in the back there. But I think hopefully my answers have shown tonight that I'm well versed on issues and have a lot of new ideas to bring to city council.
Thank you.
Christine, this is for you. You're the wife of David Cook, co-owner and publisher of the Aspen Daily News, and you work for the family business as well as editor of Local Magazine. While you're not covering city council meetings as a reporter, you share a dinner table with the boss of the reporter who does. How can you ensure an ethical separation between your role as would-be counselor and your influence with the owner of one of the town's newspapers?
Good question. One of the first calls I made when I was considering running for city council was to the city attorney, and Jim True and now city attorney Kate Johnson and I spoke, and they said there would be challenges more so on the campaign side than actually if elected. So from a legal perspective, there are no conflicts of interest. I think from an editorial perspective, uh, the the community, I see it as a benefit that to have a close relationship with government. I think you want transparency and good working relationships between the press and the government that's working for you. From the council side, I would clearly follow executive privilege and respect any decision making or any process that would need to be withheld and keep that information until it was ready to be shared with the public, and making sure that we came to the decision in the right way if that was building consensus on a certain decision or a certain issue came up. So that's how I'd approach it.
Thank you, Christine.
This is for John. In a small community like Aspen, nothing is really kept secret. Through third parties and unbeknownst to your fellow council member, until perhaps now, we were sent screenshots of a barrage of text messages you recently sent. Text messages that certainly do not reflect a communication style becoming of an elected official. Personality conflicts between council members are certainly nothing new. But how can you assure that if you're reelected, you'll be able to move forward diplomatically and productively with everyone at the council table?
Fair question. I take this role very seriously. Um, I think what you're referring to was a response from a fellow council person's behavior, which I didn't approve of without going in detail. Um, I would have preferred to have had that conversation in person, but it was not possible at that point. All I can say is I strive to do better, and I will do better. Thanks.
Thank you.
Tori,
Oh boy.
this is your 12th campaign and Squirm Night. Welcome back. To that end, what do you have left to check off your list in public service that compels you to run again, and why haven't you accomplished it already?
Gee, I never thought that question would be asked. Hey, I don't know if you know how government works, but what we deal with is ongoing, right? I am so proud of the accomplishments that I and other council members have gotten to. I could go back to, like I said earlier, one of the first hard decisions I had was about Burlingame and making that project go forward, considered the swing vote at the time. Recycling and compost programs in the environmental arena, super proud of some of the work that we've done there. It's not that I haven't accomplished those things in this time, it's that these items are ongoing. So I am here dedicated to my community. People ask me why are you doing this again? It's because I care. It's because I have the time. In 14 years of service, I think I've missed less than a handful of meetings. 14 years, I think maybe 5, maybe a work session here or there, maybe a raft of board meeting one time. I mean, I'm here. I'm dedicated to the issues. I'm dedicated to my community. I moved to Aspen because of the people that I met and the community that I was introduced to. I didn't move here for the skiing or the celebrity face that we have and the glitz and glam. I moved here because I love this community and I love working for it.
Thank you.
Scott, you've gone on record talking about your history as a local born and raised in Aspen, but you've spent more than a decade in China and only returned in recent years. Do you think you have a real handle on this present moment in time and the issues facing Aspen when you've been on the other side of the world?
I think that's a fair question, and I appreciate it. And it might not be as much of a gotcha as you'd like. My global experience starting businesses in education and service industry, I think, provide a broad perspective. The fact that I stayed in touch with Aspen, sending letters to the press during my time when COVID had just started, I think provided me with a unique experience that a lot of people haven't had. It shows that I'm adaptable, that I'm resilient. It shows that I'm capable of learning new things. Mandarin Chinese and doing business in that industry is not something that was taught at the Aspen Elementary School. And so, absolutely, there's more to be learned, but my broad experience globally, traveling and with business and education, I think, gives me a unique background to add to this community. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
On to closing statements. Again, I'd like to say thank you all for being here tonight. We're going to start with Scott.
Awesome. Get more tokens. I can buy back in. I love it. Okay.
So 2 minutes. Yeah, 2 minutes. 2 minutes.
2 minutes. Great.
All you have 2 minutes, not
I
just.
think it's time for us to take action on the entrance. Like I said, I was 10 years old when we started this conversation. It's time to move forward. We can do bigger and better things. I believe that it's important that we pay attention to the quality and durability of our existing housing stock, and then through fiscally responsible means, build more housing for the people of Aspen. I want the Armory to be a community space as it was intended and voted on by our community. And I believe that we as an Aspen community have an innovative and bright future ahead of us. We have the opportunity to regain the mantle of leadership that we've had for decades and to show the rest of the Roaring Fork Valley, the state of Colorado, Western United States, and the world what true leadership looks like, not hiding behind our special interests, but acting out of community good. I hope to be part of rebuilding relationships as I'm doing right now with the APSHA board, trying to reach out to the community to get feedback and re-inspire the people of Aspen to be part of this conversation, because we have some of the most amazing, intelligent, and successful people in the world who live in our community. I hope that the city and the community can rebuild those relationships just as old neighbors and new neighbors can rebuild relationships. And I want to re-engage the inspiring life that I had in Aspen and the people of Aspen to be involved in our future. Most importantly, I want to give back to the community that gave so much to me in my life. And I'm just proud to be up here on the stage with such amazing people. So thank you all so much.
Scott, thank you so much. Tyler, on to you.
All right, it's great. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to thank our moderators for the good questions. And I want to thank all the other candidates. As I'm sure you heard, there was a lot of agreeing because we have a great class of candidates, and I think everyone will serve our community really well. You heard my pitch in my opening statement. I believe we need leadership with a background in forming effective policy, public policy, and making decisions to move our community forward. I hope you also heard that I have some new ideas and an approach of not looking for silver bullet solutions to problems in government, but approaching problems from 10 different levers to alleviate problems. That's how you do effective public policy. I'm running because I have a deep love for this community and it has become my home, and I want to offer my services to help this community move forward. We definitely have our work cut out for us and need some change, but let's take a moment to appreciate how wonderful a place this is to live, and the great work of past leadership and councils to protect our open spaces and build housing. There are a lot of mountain towns there in a lot worse place than Aspen. We're overall doing a pretty good job. Um, if you want to learn more, my website's tylerforaspen.com. You can see more ideas. You also might see some campaign art up around town. Instead of doing lawn art or posters with just my name or face on it, I collaborated with 4 local artists to do campaign art instead of campaign material, kind of a throwback to the Aspen elections of the 60s and 70s. And I also wanted to run a campaign that embodies and embraces and celebrates the community I'm here to support, which includes our art community. I do have an event, a meet and greet at Gravity House on Friday at 5:30. If you want to come grill me on some of my responses or tell your friends to come, and there'll be the campaign art available. Thank you all for coming tonight, and I hope I earned your vote.
Tyler, thank you so much. Tori, on to you.
Thank you. Thank you again for being here. I can say without a doubt, I think this is the best Squirm night that I've participated in. And I am as honored as I've ever been to be surrounded by these 5. I think you can see the quality of candidates that you have up here, and perhaps the difficult choice that you have as you go to the ballot box. I'm very proud of the work that I've done, and I'm so honored to have represented you as your mayor and as a city councilman. But I recognize that there's more work to do, and whether that's on environment, housing, transportation, and the like, I'm here for that. I've always said that there's only a certain amount of people that are elected, and what I seek to do by being an elected official is to make non-electeds effective. I am very aware that I work for you. You can ask anybody who's reached out to me over the last 6 years. I'm very available. I have an open ear. I get back to you. I follow up on the issues that are important to you. What's important to me is the quality of life and experience here in Aspen. I agree. Aspen is potentially the best place to live on this planet. That's not a joke. That's not a joke. Progress and preservation. That's what I'm offering. I hope I can have one more of your votes as you go to the polls. I really do want to serve 4 more years as your next city councilman. And I thank you so much for the support that you've given me over the years. I am always available for any questions that you have. So please, as you lead up to the polls, if you've got any outstanding questions, reach out to me. I'm very available. Thank you guys very much for being here tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Tori. John, on to you.
Thanks. Yeah, I'd like to start by thanking my fellow candidates here and everyone in the audience. Participation is what makes Aspen a special place. I'd like to remind everybody why I got involved. I opposed, again, the overdevelopment of the Lift 1A corridor, as well as adding more lift-served ski terrain to a place blessed with so much lift-served ski terrain. I didn't see why we needed more. And those are the fights that I will continue to fight. I care deeply about the environment. Our economy is dependent on the environment. It's the reason we all moved here. I also, like Tori, I work for you. I have no conflicts of interest. Um, I I want to seek broad consensus in every decision that is made at the council table. And all of my decisions are made with the environment and the future of Aspen in mind. I ask for your support. Thank you.
John, thank you. Emily, on to you.
Thank you. And thank you very much. I'm honored to be a candidate for the Aspen City Council. I am honored to have the opportunity to potentially serve this community. I come with a certain skill set in business, in education. I have management skills. I know how to hire and retain. I have a super strong work ethic. But more than that, I have that secret sauce. I have that special attitude for our community that I want it to. I want to live in a quality of life that feels like we are encouraged and valued to participate. And we are. Look at the 6 candidates on this stage. Look at the 100+ people of you sitting here participating and everyone watching. I am so proud to come and have an opportunity to represent and to listen and be active in this community. Thank you.
Emily, thank you. Christine.
I love Aspen and I love the Roaring Fork Valley. Progressive policy has allowed me to buy a home here, build a career here, and raise a family here. I chose this town for many of the same reasons that we all did. I'm grateful for the opportunities that it's given me, and I want to make sure that I do my best to leave it better than I found it. One way to do this is through continued progressive policymaking that's rooted in reality. As an elected official, I will continue to filter decision making through the lens of what I feel and hear is best for the community. Thank you for having us. Thank you for hosting. Thank you for all being here. Thank you for all being here. And I humbly ask for your vote on or by March 4th.
Thank you, everyone. We want to extend our gratitude to all the candidates for participating and to our audience for being engaged citizens. And a special thank you again to Grassroots TV and Aspen Public Radio for carrying this Squirm Night live. Don't forget to vote. In person voting is now open through 7 p.m. on Election Day, March 4th at City Hall. Your voice matters in shaping the future of our community.
Stay informed by following coverage in the Aspen Daily News, the Aspen Times, and Aspen Public Radio. Together, we can ensure a vibrant and accountable community. Have a great evening, everyone.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. As we like to say at the end of my favorite yoga classes, thank you for showing up today. Thank you, everybody. And my gosh, am I the luckiest woman in the world to call these humans my colleagues in the field of journalism in Aspen, Colorado. Thank you. Have a wonderful night. There are still a few nibbles on those meat and cheese charcuterie boards. So,